All right. Hello, everyone, or no one, or whoever's showing up and watching this and catching this at whatever time you're catching this. Welcome to Coffee with Cunts, the YouTube show channel, whatever we're calling this, for cunts with about cunts with a couple of cunts. And the cunt I have today is Amy Connor. So she is probably one of the sweetest souls I've met. I met her while I was in school. It's so true. You're just your little happy, warm heart. Just it's lovely. And she was a mentor while I was going through school through sort of the intense training that we did. And I'm so honored that she said yes to have this conversation with me today about what we're going to talk about, which is really exciting. So, Amy is a health and well-being mentor. So this is such a I love this title. I might add it to mine too because I like the concept of mentoring. I take on coaching because I like telling people how to get there and where to go. But you have with a mentor, it's such a softer word of like, which I think is very you. I think it's a great title. Like
Thank
it's a
you.
great thing for you. And so I'm going to put it in the thing and I'll say it again at the bottom, but I love the title of her beautiful business. It's vaginatruthbombs.com. So as we know, that's what we're talking about, cunts and vaginas. But I think I love what we chose to speak about today is with all the noise online
Mhm.
and there's so much shit to wade through. And what we see, it kind of narrows down to one size fits all, or it's your fault.
Yeah.
And we really want to talk about that neither of those are true
Mhm.
and don't register or work for anyone because that's not very human or comforting or healing or any of the things. It really just puts us in the shame bubble that we don't want to be in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
So saying that, what deliciousness do you find in the world when you're working? Because we both work with women and women's health. And I specialize with the perimenopause world, and you specialize in just kind of taking them all through the journey because you have your own healing journey that I'd love to talk about because it's a pretty powerful one that I think needs to be shared and talked about a lot more too. So can we start with
Yeah.
what got you into this journey before we dive into why one size doesn't fit? Because your journey ultimate shows that one size doesn't fit.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. And firstly, thank you so much for having me.
Oh,
I am
yeah.
so excited for this discussion. And yeah, like, where did it all begin with me? Now, Vagina Truth Bomb started originally as a blog, and it was really me just wanting to share my experiences around my health because there's so much taboo around women's health, so much embarrassment. No, there's no free flowing conversation. It is getting better, but I
Hmm.
definitely felt at the time that when I was going through all of my health challenges, it was this big embarrassment to everyone else and
Yeah.
to me. And as I started to open up and have conversations with other women, I knew that I wasn't on my own. So I was like, do you know what? I'm just gonna talk about how it is and all of my experiences and just create conversation. So my story, if we're going to call it that, I struggled with my health and I struggled with my body and my vagina from starting my periods at 9. And I didn't know at the time, but I had endometriosis, and
Hmm.
it took me till I was 31 to get a diagnosis of
Jesus
this.
Christ.
And throughout this time, I always felt like when I was a lot younger, I used to think that painful periods were the norm, and this was
Hmm.
just what happened. Like you felt like shit for, a week. And then as I got older, I'd see my friends going out and socializing and, sometimes having sex on their period and all these things. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, how do you manage to do that? You must be Wonder Woman. And then through having conversations with friends, I realized that mine were different, that my experience was a different one, and really started to look for answers from the medical community there, which the first one was, let's stop the periods. Let's just put you on birth control, stop the periods, and that'll stop the problems, which it didn't, because it was so much more than just a heavy period, like so
Hmm.
much more. I had really painful ovulation. I had horrendous migraines, and you name it, I had
Hmm.
it going on, like it was horrendous. I'd get UTIs a lot, and I just lived in this cycle of my vagina causing me pain at some point in some way every day of the year. And I
God.
just I just built up this resentment for her. And because the medical community's way of dealing with women's health is significantly traumatizing,
Mm.
and like there's no love or care, or every time I went for an appointment, someone would examine me. It'd be a different doctor every time. Most of the time it was a male doctor. And I just got to the point where I was just like, I can't fucking go on anymore. Like, I cannot do this anymore. I was in just this really scary place of meeting somebody that I knew I wanted to spend the rest of my life with and not feeling worthy of them because I had this huge burden, which was my, you know, unruly vagina that just wouldn't, like just wouldn't be normal. And
Yeah.
everything everything was set around, excuse me, that. So we'd get a wedding invitation in 6 months' time, and I'd be like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go because if I'm at a certain point in my cycle, I physically won't be able to go. I won't be able to wear the right clothes. I won't be able to stand up long enough. I won't, like all of the things. So it just impacted everything. And I got in this really scary, lonely place where I would fantasize about killing myself on a
Mm.
night to just end it all. And to, I used to think, oh, well, if I die, then he'll find somebody who's going to be better for him and all the rest of it. And I ended up having a hysterectomy out of complete lack of choices.
Right.
I was told, you're incurable. We don't know why this is happening to you. I didn't poo. Like I just didn't poo. I had to go and have a clonic um to be able to empty my bowels. And this was seen as okay. Like it was like we
Oh my
don't know
God.
what the answer is here. So just everything was a big mess. And I had this hysterectomy, and it wasn't until I'd had my hysterectomy that they diagnosed me with endometriosis. And I'd
No.
had about 6 or 8 surgeries prior to this,
Right.
where it was like, we think it could be da 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 da. I used to get huge ovarian cysts that got to like 32 centimeters, and then they'd need to be removed. And it was just like an ongoing thing. I never got any answers. And then, as I say, had this hysterectomy, which then messed up. I ended up having my bowel ruptured as well. So I had to go in again for like emergency surgery and all of these things.
Hmm.
And I left the hospital with my bag full of drugs, and they told me that, like, off you go. You're going to be on HRT till you're 52, and you know, welcome to menopause. Basically, that was it. And I couldn't. I stepped into that world of menopause, like just with no knowledge of
Yeah.
anything, like no understanding of anything. I had really bad reactions to the the hormones I was given. And I did have a really good doctor at that time, bless her, who was trying her hardest to get me the right balance of hormones. And then I remember getting out of the shower one day, and I was on an oral pill and a patch that I used to change every few days.
Hmm.
And this patch used to inflame my skin so much.
Oh
And I
gosh.
can remember getting out of the shower and just looking down at my torso for a patch that wasn't sore that I could put this new patch on. And I was just like, what the fuck are you doing, Amy? Like, is this not a message from your body that she doesn't want this? And at the time, I was literally being ruled by my HRT. So I just thought, I'm not going to take it anymore. And this may sound a bit ridiculous, but I was just like, hmm, my dog's had a hysterectomy and she doesn't have all these, like, she hasn't got all this medication. And my grandma didn't have all this medication and all these women before me. So why do I need it? And I remember going downstairs and saying to my husband, I'm not doing it anymore. Like, I'm not taking anything pharmaceutical. And he was like, I really want to support you, but I'm scared because I don't know what the alternative is.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, that's what we need to find out because I don't believe that this is the only route for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where everything sparked really quickly after that. And I stepped into exploring options more, my life choices. I'd
Yeah.
already, I had a really stressful job. I'd already left that job and started a dog walking business because I was just like, I know I like being out in nature.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I didn't know at the time how healing that was for me.
Right.
But in essence, I'd already started my healing just by making that choice to be like, hey, I don't want all this stress anymore because my body can't cope with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a really big advocate for giving women informed choices because
Yeah.
I am not going to judge anybody. Anybody listening to this, if you're doing the HRT route and that's working for you and you're happy, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, amazing. But if it's not, and you're like me, you're in this space of, well, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
Like, am I going to die? Are my bones going to crumble? Like, am I just going to wake up one morning like a big crumbly pile of dusty bones because I've got like osteoporosis is
Yeah.
hitting and like
No.
all of these like fear stories that I'd been given.
Mm-hmm.
When I went for my pre-op before my hysterectomy, she said, "Oh, you'll be given HRT," and I said, "Why?" And she didn't explain to me at that point because your sex hormones are produced by your ovaries and like none of that
No.
conversation was
No.
given. It was just like, because if you don't take it, you'll get osteoporosis and, you know, your bones will break and you'll need a new hip and all the rest of it. And I was just like, oh, okay, like, okay, that's why I need to take it.
Yeah.
Um, and that was naively me stepping into surgical menopause.
Yeah.
I didn't know at that point, or I didn't have because again, obviously, when you're ill, you don't have a full grasp of everything that's
No.
going on anyway. Like, I had no acknowledgement that my ovaries going meant that it would be immediate menopause and why that was,
Yeah.
and the understanding of that. And, and I will admit that I think I was like 29 or 30 when I realized that the womb and the uterus were the same thing.
Yeah. Do you know? Okay, right there. Oh my fucking God. The 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 misinformation we start off with as women about our bodies right there is a piss off. And
Yeah.
then seeing countries trying to remove even that little bit of information
Hmm.
we're given, and we're stumbling around just thinking we're broken men and that's how we're treated or lesser than, when
Yeah.
we are so much more divinely complicated ecosystems, to the point where the medical system doesn't want to look at us because we're so complicated.
Yeah.
They'd rather do, like, they'd rather just rip the ecosystem apart. And
Yeah.
I'm always like, why do we rip the environment apart? For the same reason we rip a woman's body apart. We don't want to understand how important that ecosystem is.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't really understand the workings of the sex hormones and shit like that till I was in my 30s either, for the
Mm.
same concept of, like, I started studying tantra, and then, like, my image of what the uterus looks like was that silly cartoon drawing,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
That was it. somewhere the vagina came in, and you didn't even have the vulva attached to it. It was just
Hmm.
literally this thing
Yeah.
that was floating in your body. And it wasn't until like a few years ago when you saw the actual image of what the sisters look like with where the bowel and the bladder
Yeah.
sits. And I went, well, no wonder you get incontinence and shit. And
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
I'm like, and I'm deep into my 40s. And I'm like, what the? This is shit we should have known
Yeah.
at such a young age, and then given the respect and understanding of our bodies
Hmm.
so that you can make really educated things about, like, right, a hysterectomy. My grandmother had one early and we wonder why she went fucking crazy, but
Yeah.
we still didn't understand that what she was going through was like menopause, like
Yeah.
medical menopause. And
Yeah.
that's just stuff we're like just now we're talking about. Like in the past 6 months, watching the conversation around menopause has exploded, and it's really cool.
Hmm.
And I hope it stays, and it has to stay because it is part of our life cycle. It's not a
Yeah.
fad, although I know it's being treated like a fad right now.
Hmm.
But I saw this 2 years ago when we were talking about the menstrual cycle. It was a fad, but we need to keep these conversations going with every woman we have of like, this is a vital part of your body, and
Yeah.
you need to understand your body before you get given these things so you can make these educated
And
decisions.
it's not something to fear.
No, it's
Like
beautiful. Like, oh my
I had
fucking god.
yeah, I had more fear around entering menopause than I did losing my womb.
Yeah, isn't that
You
interesting?
know, like I remember saying to my husband, I need to buy a fan because I'm gonna get hot flushes. Like I'm gonna get hot flushes,
Yeah,
so we need to get a fan. And I need a fan for my like a handheld fan. And then like and I was like prepping for the menopause and what I thought that would bring me,
yeah,
but not psychologically preparing myself for losing part of me.
yeah.
And a big part of my healing, like when you're talking about your grandmother, then, like you're saying, yeah, she was menopausal, but she was also grieving. Like,
She didn't know. Like,
yeah,
like she didn't like, honestly, she didn't fucking know. She was still of the generation where her husband got to say yes or no,
yes,
right? Like, we also forget the medical system. We've only had bodily autonomy in Canada for about the past 40 years.
hmm,
Um, and so, which means we can get it, buy a house, get credit. We can go to the doctor by our fucking selves, right? That's
yeah,
only been in my lifetime.
yeah,
So that's disturbing. And then we have doctors and men making decisions about a body that they have no idea what's going on, which means we have no idea what's going
yeah,
on. And then we're trying to talk about a lived experience, and they're like, well, that's in your head. Like,
hmm,
because you're living it doesn't mean I'm not living it. And I think
yeah,
that's a really big thing we have to understand is just because someone else is living it doesn't mean it's not real.
yeah, absolutely. And it's there's just so much packed into
Yeah.
this. Like we
Oh
could
my
go
God.
on so many different um directions with this, but
Yeah.
to me, like the thing that really breaks my heart is, like I said, I had so much resentment
Yeah.
towards my body, like
Yeah.
so much. And it wasn't until I really started to listen to my intuition and I really started because when I started saying I'm not taking HRT and I'm not doing this, like everyone around me from
Mm.
a loving space was like, even my mum was like, well, do you think you should? And I'm like, well, you haven't taken HRT, mum. And she's
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, but I didn't have a hysterectomy. You're 31. You're, like, and just this fear that was all wrapped up in it.
Yeah.
And I realized it dawned on me one day. It hit me really hard that it was okay for me to grieve my womb and the organs that I'd lost. And when I really sat with that, I then realized, okay, if someone else was grieving, how would I treat them?
Mm-hmm.
What would I be saying to them? What would the message be? And then there was this realization that how the hell, because even after I had my hysterectomy, like my vagina still kept shouting at me, like I got lichen sclerosis and all the stuff was
Oh.
still happening. Like I still was getting the UTIs. Like the message around the vagina and the vulva was still very much like, we hate you, and it wasn't until I was like, okay, so I need to start loving my
Mm-hmm.
vagina and my vulva because anything that's getting as much resentment as I'm giving it right now, like, is
Oh,
is not
yeah.
is not going to be able to thrive and heal and do all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I really set out to change my relationship with my vulva and with my vagina and how I spoke to her, how I connected with her. And it started just by me literally placing my hand over her and letting her know that she was part of me. Because I know, like, when I had that awareness that historically I'd been giving myself the narrative, oh, my vagina is an absolute pain in the ass. And I just wish I could just throw it away, which in essence was what I was trying to do when I had the hysterectomy, like just throw the problem away,
Mm-hmm.
take it away. I don't want that. Like I don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the body knows best. And even though she couldn't, communicate to me through my like reproductive organs, then the itching and like the lichen sclerosis started, and all of this irritation. And I was like, clearly it's trying to tell me something.
Yeah.
And this realization that I was holding all this anger and resentment and hate towards her, and that you know if you threw all that hate at a person or an animal, it's not gonna treat you nicely. Like it's not gonna do what
Yeah,
you want it to do.
it doesn't
You
respond
know?
very well. It's
Yeah,
true. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
we witnessed that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And just
Yeah.
starting that really, because my husband would say to me all the time, "I love your vagina. It's amazing." Like, and I'd be like, "Oh, you have to say that because you're married to me." And da, 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 da.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then like then I'd start saying, "Yes, she is." And I just stop myself. I won't go any further. I just be like, yes, she is. Thank you. Yeah, we accept the compliment.
Yes.
And just changing that narrative really, really was the start of things getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't get better overnight. It wasn't like whoa, everything's fine now. And it's an ongoing relationship. Like I have to, like everything, I have to keep the connection. I have to
Oh.
keep the the attention and the love going. And I was saying to my friend the other day actually how on an evening I will sit with my husband, and if we're watching TV or whatever, I will be cupping my vulva and I will be saying to her, it's okay for you to relax, you're safe. Like
Sister,
we're
did
okay.
you're a
It's
fucking dakini whether you know it or not. Like that is deep ass dakini work you're doing right there.
and
Holy
it's
shit.
like so simple but so profound. And
Yeah.
when I talk, like I have not necessarily clients, but I have friends that have conversations with me, and I will say to them, this is how I started, like this is what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And they look at me like, what? Like, how socially unacceptable is it for you to like
Cup and touch yourself. Yeah.
touch your vulva? I'm like, what, in my own home?
Yeah.
Like with my husband, who I feel safe. Like how is my body meant to feel safe with my husband if I can't sit in his presence and do that? And
Okay,
it's not a section.
no, no, I really want us to stop on that because I
Yeah.
think that is so fucking powerful and so right. Because a lot of our illnesses come from being unsafe, especially in the female body.
Mhm.
And there is so much vagus work and breathing work and dancing work and la 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 work when what it's about is, can I make my body feel safe? And for 90, I'm going to go with 99% of us, it is all around our vulva, our
Yeah.
yoni, because that is the place of shame.
Yeah. The
And it is
forbidden
all,
place.
it's a
Yeah.
forbidden place for ourselves. It's in our own body and it's supposed to be for a man.
Yeah.
Depending what, and it doesn't even matter what gender we are attracted to, it is supposed to be the place of a man's, and how dare we enter it, pleasure it, think about it. So we build up all this shame, and you like what, like when I said like you got me so excited because that is deep tantra work. Like that is one of the
Mhm.
like one of the deep steps we talk about quietly when we work about it is the touching and the cupping and the
Yeah.
conversations. And I thank you for bringing that back in, like, because before we were talking, I was talking about how I'm starting to go back in to nourishing of the tantra, and I'm like, you were doing it without even knowing you were doing it. That's just how powerful of a woman you are,
Bless you.
and how important the work you're doing is to be sharing that huge step. Like, there's no joke here. Like, I'm fucking serious.
Mm.
That step you're doing and introducing and bringing out to the world is number one important for a lot of us women to connect to ourselves. And you're right, it's not sexual. It's literally, I've got you, you're safe, it's
Yeah.
okay, relax. And
Yeah.
it's that repetition that gets us into, and the physical touch. Like it's the physical touch of going and learning your body
Mhm.
is so fucking important as a
Mhm.
woman because we are this complicated ecosystem. So yeah, I really want us to feel that that step you did is so profound, just so fucking
Thank you.
profound.
Yeah, and I feel that it was really needed because I did feel like I talk all the time to my clients about being aware of the environment that they're creating around themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to a place when I was deep in my healing and my trauma release where I hated the world. Like I felt that everything was really triggering. And
Mm-hmm.
even now I'm very, very controlled about what I will watch on TV. If I start, I'm always aware if I start to read a book, if there's a rape scene in it, or if there's something
Amen.
uncomfortable
Yeah.
that triggers me. I realized I came to this realization, and this was like a few years ago, that a lot of the things that we were watching fucking horrible. Like, re
So fucking horrible.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
just I cannot turn on the tele. I'm watching my kids' shows more now because it's just like at
yeah,
least that's not horrible.
yeah. Well, we watch a lot of comedy based
Amen. Same.
stupid stuff like that's easy, what we call easy watching.
Hmm.
Um, I love the Hallmark channel because nothing's gonna.
I can't quite go
Nothing.
there with you on that one because I can't handle the acting. All I do is
Oh
criticize
yeah,
the
well
acting
it's
on
I
that.
know,
I
but
can't do it.
to me
God
it's
bless them. Yeah, yeah, I'm with
whenever
you.
I need like safety in my
Yeah.
like I know that I need that safety, like the Hallmark channels, you're not gonna get nothing's gonna trigger you on there. Um
Fucking thought of him. That's brilliant. I'm like, I'm thinking, oh, but you're absolutely right. It's just this lovely little story. Although my
yeah,
feminist brain goes, oh, fuck, here's
yes,
another story about a pathetic
yeah,
woman finding a
yes,
pathetic man
yeah, yeah.
and getting
But
married. So,
when
but
I say we watch a lot of comedies, like
yes,
that is
yeah,
a comedy to us because they're like, oh,
that's,
here we go, look, here's the
yeah,
handsome prince,
do,
and
do,
here's
do.
the
Yeah,
yeah, look, she's got
I
her
love
hair
it.
and nails done and ready, like
Yeah,
um,
she's gonna meet him
yeah,
now. Yeah. Oh, look,
yes,
she's awkward and ugly, so she's gonna
yeah,
be mad. Fucking A. Okay, I'm gonna put that at thank you. I'm going to start looking at that because I'm with you. I'm watching. I'm totally on board.
yeah,
It is the there's just so much violence, and it's always violence against women,
yeah,
and this hate and this. So, and I mean, I live with two men, and the one is my ex partner, and he does dictate more of what's on television. I just don't have the energy to argue, so I'll watch what I want when he goes to
Mm.
bed. But the journey with that is, it is, I'm really exhausted by men's stories, right? So I'm always seeking women's stories, is where I'm going. Like, again, why doing Coffee with Cunts is so important to me,
Yeah.
because this is women's stories. I'm exhausted. I'm just exhausted by listening to the
Yes.
male voice, the male story, the male
Hmm.
perspective. I think it's boring. I don't think it's interesting, because women are complicated and interesting, and I just like
Yeah.
us better. Not to say I don't like men, but I'm going to be
Yeah.
honest. Like, I was
Yeah. Yeah.
straightforward. I think where, but look at the Barbie movie.
Yeah.
That was a fucking brilliant movie, and I don't think, like, as a woman, you sit down and you can see layer upon layer upon
Yeah.
layer upon layer of brilliance. But a guy
Hmm.
sits there and goes, "It's a girl in pink." Like,
Yeah.
that's male to female thinking. I'm
Hmm.
like looking at, like, really good acting. I'm what, like, there's
Yeah.
just so much. So yeah, just thank you for letting me wander on that tangent, because it really is important what we
Yeah.
watch. And there's
It
just so
is.
much hate and violence. And I
Yeah.
am
And you,
never going to watch another fucking World War II movie again. That
oh
is
God,
just
no. No.
fucking stop it.
Yeah. Like
I cannot. No, I'm over it. Just
I'm out
no.
on all that. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like, so you can really easily
Hmm.
create an environment on
Yeah.
your own sofa that subconsciously is unsafe for you.
100%.
So this is why, I mean, a lot of the time now we're watching rubbish, like, you know,
Well,
Taskmaster. Do you have that in Canada, Taskmaster?
no. What's Taskmaster? Or I don't
Oh,
know either.
it's brilliant. It's
Okay.
it's all comedians. One of the comedians is the Taskmaster
Oh,
all the way
gee.
through all the series, and he sets them stupid tasks that they have to do that it's just absolute rubbish, but just easy watching, like a good laugh. And
Yeah.
we just watch stuff like that where you
Yeah.
just think, yeah, my husband will watch a bit of a shooting up, whatever, but he puts his headphones on when I'm not there. I'm like, I don't want to listen to it. So if I'm in the
Hmm.
house, put your headphones on, which he does. But yeah, like I think there's this having this awareness that the environment that you create can subconsciously be
Hmm.
feeding your narrative of your body, of your health, of your existence as a woman.
Yeah.
And we were talking before we hit record about how there's so much information out there.
Oh.
Like it, it can be totally overwhelming. And if you are going onto one of these really busy platforms, especially like the Instagrams and the TikToks, where it's like,
Hmm.
we want you to keep consuming really
Yeah.
quick bits of information. Um, I've unfollowed anyone that does anything to do with health and well-being now because I was just getting myself to the point where I'm like, oh my God, I can't I can't do all these things that are being asked of me, or
Hmm.
this one size fits all message that people are being given in the platform's giving you so many seconds or minutes to get across an issue that you can't do that in that amount
No.
of time.
No.
And you mentioned about the menopause and like the awareness of that and the conversations that have been had about that, which I think is amazing. But what really scares me,
Yeah.
right? I am 39 in September. I had my hysterectomy in 31. This isn't a brag. I'm not on any pharmaceutical
Yeah.
medication. And I know when I start to get symptoms of the menopause, it's because something is out of balance in my life. Whether I'm
Hmm.
having too much stress, I'm not getting enough sleep. Sleep's a big one for me. If I don't get enough sleep, I can start with all of a lot of the symptoms. And I know what's right for me
Hmm.
because I have put in the work to understand what
Yeah.
is right for me. And then I go onto Instagram and I have people telling me that everybody needs HRT.
Yeah.
Every woman needs HRT. you have got to fight for your HRT girls because they're not giving it to us and da da da. And I think, yeah, some of us do need HRT,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
that's not the narrative. That's not what your focus should be when you're coming into your whatever stage of life you're at, whatever your challenge is. Your
Hmm.
focus shouldn't be on what the medical community, what you're entitled to from the medical community.
Yeah.
It should be on what's happening for you in your life
Hmm.
and getting an informed narrative and getting some agency and some control, because I feel that there's a lot of big voices in the menopause.
Yes, I agree.
They're on all the podcasts, writing all the books, whatever, getting all the flashy lights. But this is taking away the fact that we are responsible for our health, and we shouldn't have to listen to what other people are telling us. As like, understand yourself, get to
Yeah.
understand what it is that you need and what suits your lifestyle. Because what suits me as a childless woman, who
Hmm.
doesn't have anyone else depending on me 24/7, is
Yeah.
going to be completely different to my friend who's got 3 children and, you know, is working part-time and all the rest of it. Like, it's
Hmm.
going to be a completely different need.
Yeah.
I choose to follow a primarily vegan diet.
Hmm.
It's not something I talk about a lot openly because there's so much controversy
Yeah.
around what menopausal women should be eating and
Oh God.
consuming.
Yeah.
And I see these posts telling me if you're not eating a steak every day and doing all these things, then you're never going to survive menopause. And I'm like, well,
Well, and I think that, yeah, okay. Yeah, it's just so, I think that that's where, like, look, like, I don't know what your medical system is because we're here in Canada. I get to, if I book an appointment with my doctor, we get 3 minutes to ask one fucking question
yeah,
and
it's
they
quite
move on.
similar here.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you can't, one question isn't going to solve the fucking anything.
yeah,
So
yes.
I've been studying myself and the world and all of this stuff, and my aspect is tends to come a little bit more from a spiritual perspective
Mhm.
and then led into the physical because the two were don't like to play. Anyways, that's a conversation for another time. But the female ecosystem was just so profoundly interesting to
Mhm.
work on and listen and understand because I live in it. And then to go to a doctor that dismisses mostly what you say, I go in armed or I go in with the question that I need to get what I want from them. So, but most people don't have that agency or that thought process
Yes.
or that space. And I think that's where work like us is really important. Like, I think a lot of people are like, well, are you being a health coach and stuff like that? I'm like, it's not even being about that. It's about giving you some tools to give yourself some space so you can go in to places that are the gatekeepers of the
Mhm.
deeper information you need to access. Working with me, I can't get you the tests. I can't get you, the drugs if you need them, but I can get you the tools to make sure that's what you need so you can go in
Yeah,
with your 3 minutes and be like in there instead of taking 10,
yeah,
20 years of digging around. You
yeah.
can
And
go in armed.
yeah, and I love that. And I think even before you get to the point where you're going in,
Hmm.
it's about having that realization that your narrative is your own. And
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be the same as, because as I said earlier on, there's so much negativity around
Hmm.
menopause,
Yeah.
so much negativity. And there's fear, so much fear. Like, the amount of women that will contact me and say, I'm not even perimenopausal yet, but I'm terrified.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what can I do? And I love that because it's what can I do?
Hmm.
What do I need to start doing? Like, what are the small things that are simple that I can implement into my life
Yeah.
that are going to stop this shit show of, like, all of the
Yeah.
negative stuff that I think is coming for me,
Yeah.
because that's what everybody's telling me. Like, there's this huge
Or it's a,
crisis of,
yeah,
yeah. And
it's a
it's,
crisis. It's not a fucking crisis. It's a transition. It is an
yes,
amazing,
it's nothing
powerful,
new.
it's a no, it's not fucking new. It's not fucking new. What's new is the fear and the shame and the dismissal
Yeah.
and the lack of support and information that we had from our elders
Mhm.
to help us transition through this beautiful phase. Because this, like, I always think of it, this perimenopause is sort of, I mean, is this when we get to pay the bill, is how I look at it, right? Before we get to go on to a whole new upper level of dining. So it's like, how did I treat myself physically, mentally, emotionally? And the
Yeah.
body's going to tell you. How do I want to move forward in the world? The body's going to tell you. And if we have space to listen or trust to listen or even understand that we can listen, like that's the key. And symptoms are information. They're not a death
Yeah.
sentence. It's just information. And what you do with that information is up to you.
Yeah.
And I think that's really key to remember. So yes, like I like what you say. If someone wants to go on HRT, like I'm 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 a bit of an experimental person. So I love all of the non-HRT, but I want to feel what it feels like to see if that's what's in relation with my body. So I'm going to start it in a couple of months.
Mhm.
But if it doesn't feel right, I trust myself to toss it out the window and be like,
Yeah.
okay, that did not what we wanted. But and that's okay too, to like try something, throw it out, because none of us really understand our personal ecosystems because we've never been allowed to. So this whole perimenopause phase, I think, is the most deep dive we can do to really understand our own personal ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
I think that's really powerful. And
Absolutely.
coming at it from however we do, I get to transition in a different way than you. Like I'm doing postpartum and perimenopause because I'm
Yeah.
fucking brilliant to do that, right? Like that's
Exactly.
a
Yeah.
good job, me. And and you got to do this transition really early and to dive deeply into it. And really, I think it's really powerful for these conversations, for us to expand on these conversations, to let women go, your journey is yours
Mhm.
and it's not meant to be someone else's journey, you know?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
that you're worthy of having your own journey,
Mm-hmm.
that and having your own needs, because this is something else that, like, the older I get, the less shits I give. Like, I'm just like,
Fucking A.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, I think.
like, and I said, I would, like I said before, sleep is really, really important to me. And
Mm-hmm.
it is it's almost like my HRT. Like, if I get the right levels of sleep, everything's okay. And if I don't, things can go downhill quite quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I will prioritize sleep. So I will, a lot of the time I'm really privileged that I don't have to set an alarm clock in the morning. I will just wake up when I
Mm-hmm.
wake up. And I don't hold any shame if I'm waking up when the rest of the world's going out to work. Or, like, I don't,
Amen.
before I used to think, oh, I've been so lazy. And this was the battle that I was in. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I've slept 12 hours. And that's really lazy. And I've not been productive enough. And I've not, whereas
Oh God.
now I'm just like, I am not productive for anyone or to anyone if I don't get the sleep that I need.
Mm-hmm.
So I will wake up and I won't judge myself. And, you know, my husband's really accepting of it as well. Like, he will, he never says, he never would, but like, there's never any snide comments or anything like
Yeah.
that. It is, I need my sleep. And he knows that that's important.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a narrative that I've had to build myself, because growing up, the narrative was, if you like, if you're still in bed at this time,
Yeah.
you're jobless, you're lazy, you're
Yeah.
all the other things. Um, so to me, like, stepping into my understanding of, hey, I'm worthy of giving myself this sleep that I need and not listening to all this other bullshit about what time I should go to bed and what time I should get up and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Um, that like that is really important for women as well, because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the time we're not putting our own needs first.
Yeah.
And that can be because we don't have the capability of doing that. Maybe we've
Mm-hmm.
got young children. I know a lot of people who are caring for parents with dementia or, other needs. And it's a lot falls on the heads and shoulders of women to do this caring. Yet, if you are seeking your health and your well-being, you need to know that it's okay to put your needs first where you can.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many layers of shame and guilt that need to be peeled off for that to be widely accepted. But I do think that for me, and I know I'm in such a fortunate position because
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anyone else to care for other than my dogs, but like there's nothing that I don't have reliance of someone else needing my
Yeah.
energy. So I'm in that really fortunate position where I can manage my energy really well. But yeah, like that understanding that it's okay for you to put yourself first. And
Mm-hmm.
if that does mean, hey, this doctor's not listening to me, then where else can I go? Who else can I listen to, invest time with? Because this is the great thing about the world that we live in. Although
Mm-hmm.
it's like a double-edged sword,
Yeah.
there's so much information out there. And I always say this on my podcast, like I'm here to inform you. Take what I've got to say. You might not agree with all of it, you might not resonate with all of it, but listen, take on board what you want to take on board, and then go and listen to somebody else and get yourself informed
Mm-hmm.
as to what is available to you, because the narratives that are widely published around women's health are so negative
Mm-hmm.
and derogatory to the wisdom and the, like, oh my god, the magic of the body and what she can do and what she's
Yeah.
capable of.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
There's
yeah, so like that's always what I preach. Just get informed, have conversations with other women, have conversations with your friends, start these conversations, get vulnerable with each other, because you're not the only one. I go to an adults gymnastics class on a Monday night, and the poor coach, bless him, who's in his 20s, who coaches us, we are just all talking about our vaginas. And, like, because there's a lot of jumping and pelvic floor, like control and stuff. And we have really in-depth conversations about what it is to be a woman and, living in the female body. And it's such a fun and healing space to be
mm-hmm.
in, because we're all so vulnerable with each other. And just starting these conversations and saying to people, that's okay that you can talk about that. There's no shame.
Yeah.
Like, can we help you? Let's see what we can do. And just the level of conversation that comes out when we're having so much fun trying to do gymnastics and like just really having joy
Yeah.
together as women. We're all there doing something for ourselves for an hour on a Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, really powerful. So you can find this information and these support networks everywhere if you start the conversations, because that's how we're going to change the narrative, is by starting conversations that we need to have.
100%. 100% agree with you. I think that's, again, I think that's the beauty and the power of women and why we have not been allowed to access it for so long, is because when we talk, We listen. When we listen, we learn. When we learn, we share. And that's really like that's what the world is changed by women.
Hmm.
It was created by us. It will be changed by us. And I get like, and my dream is definitely the death of the patriarchy so that we can create something that's more profound and inclusive and safe for all. And that really does start with us women taking back the ownership of our bodies, taking back the ownership of our lives in every way we can. And the more of us who do it, then the more of us who can do it, the more of us can do it. And it goes back to like, it's that antidote to the poison of the disrespect and the fear and the shame and the control that's really
Yeah.
trying to rear its ugly head as big and as powerful as it possibly can. But that's always a sign that it's going to die. So if we
Hmm.
keep these conversations and we keep the sharing, we keep the movement, and I think that it's really important, like what you said, is we have to watch the fear and
Yeah.
we have to go to the love. And look, I fall into the fear mongering less and less now that I'm at a different position of like going through postpartum was pretty fucking rough and I
Yeah.
dove into that fear, and now on the other side it's like, oh, we can journey through this without it, which is
Hmm.
lovely. um but I definitely love the access of rage and anger to support ourselves through it. That's another conversation. But it's these conversations that are so important, and to listen to them and then and take the pieces you need and then create something new for your ecosystem. Yeah,
Yeah.
powerful work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And I think to like weave it back, that's why one size doesn't fit all, right?
Hmm.
Like we're both completely different, we're women in completely different parts of the world on a completely different journey, but we can have this deep conversation. And, your journey through menopause is completely different than mine, but both are completely valid because we're
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's never ever going to be the one size fits all model because we are so all uniquely individual.
Hmm.
And that's, to me, like, that's the magic and the wisdom of the woman,
Yeah.
that she
One,
can,
yeah.
like, we can all have all these different experiences, different joy, different pleasure, different trauma,
Hmm.
different creations, and still thrive
Yeah.
when given the right environment. And it's, to me, it can seem overwhelming
Hmm.
when we're looking out on the world and the patriarchy that's ruling at the moment.
Hmm.
But to me, like, it's simple. Just start having the conversations and speaking, sharing, loving, connecting.
Hmm.
Because when, like I said, my whole business started with a blog,
Hmm.
and I literally just put it out there thinking, no one, is anyone going to read it? I don't know. It was very therapeutic for me to write them.
Hmm.
But the response that I got back from other women blew me so, it just blew me away. And the biggest response, like the biggest impact, was my mum actually read the blogs,
Hmm.
and she would come and have conversations with me about things that she's never told anyone.
Wow.
And I just think, oh my God, like, this is a woman that raised me, that I love, and she's carrying her own traumas and experiences, and she was just like, no one, you just didn't talk about these things.
Hmm.
It just wasn't talked about.
Oh.
And I think, oh my God, like, and I don't, and then at the time when I was creating the blog, I had my mum saying this to me, and then I had my niece who was, I think she was about 12 at the time,
Hmm.
11, 12, like expecting her first period. And she was terrified. she didn't want it to happen
Yeah.
because all of the women in my family have struggled with their periods in some way. Like my mum got migraines, my sister's got polycystic ovaries, so and she knew that I'd been unwell and that I'd had a hysterectomy because my periods were bad. And
Mm-hmm.
just this negativity that she was starting off
Oh gosh,
with
eh?
already, and I'm like, oh my God, there's like all these different generations.
And that's why we need to sit in circles.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah,
think that, and we need to sit in generational circles, and we need to
mhm,
sit in safety circles, and we need to sit. We just need circles. We need circles around us. We need circles in us. We need a fucking, yeah, yeah. It's really, yeah. It's interesting, the journey that the time we're in right now is so profound for the shift that we could create for ourselves and our
yeah,
sisters and our daughters and our mothers and whatever comes after or before. It's
yeah,
really, I'm very hopeful right now.
mhm, yeah,
And there are days where I am not, and that's okay too. And those are the days where you know that you need to do some personal work or space or something, and then we can get back out
yeah,
and do that, or grow a garden or walk a dog. Like
yeah,
I think that that's really key is again, like you said earlier, it's understanding that we have needs. They need to be met. We're going to get them
yeah,
met some way, whether it's darkly or lightly. And it's okay and it's important because they're our guidance system. Like our needs are our guidance system to how
yeah,
to live our life, not somebody else's,
mhm,
our life.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
With your choices, but
Mm-hmm.
your informed choices. Like
Yep.
I'm
Thank
all
you.
about that. Like get
Yes.
informed. Like yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because we
Yeah.
have choices now as women. Like we need to celebrate and acknowledge that because as you've said, historically we haven't had these choices.
No.
But I feel
And
now we're at the point in history where we need to get informed.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and we have to be, I think we're also at a point that we really need to exercise them because they're trying very hard to take them
Yes.
away again.
Yeah.
Like I look at in 40 years what women have accomplished in this short amount of time.
Hmm.
They've given us 40 years and we've changed the world so dramatically that it scared the fuck out of them
Yeah.
and it's destroying the 2000 plus years they've done. So I'm like, give us another 40. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine
Yeah.
what we would do,
Yeah.
right? Like, give us some more leadership. Oh my God, like what the environmental will shift.
Hmm.
There's studies and there's research and there's anecdotes showing that when women are allowed to be in their power and what it changes structurally in the environment and in the communities is where I want to live. I
Yeah.
want to live in these communities where, violence is no longer occurring, rape is no longer, child
Yes.
marriage is no longer occurring, abuse of anyone's body is no longer occurring. And
Hmm.
that happens when women get to exercise their choices and their power with information and agency. And that's not even giving them a shit ton of money, right?
Yeah.
We look at, we give Jeff Bezos billions and billions of dollars, and what does he create? A fucking phallic thing to go to Mars. Great, please
Hmm.
go. You give,
Yeah.
give most of the women I know, if they had an extra $1,000, the change they would make in their life
Yes.
is fucking profound.
Yeah.
Like it just, fuck, if I had an extra $1,000, like mind blowing.
Hmm.
So that, but we don't have it right now. And we're still making changes. We're
Yeah.
still profound. We're still powerful. It's awe-inspiring. It's again
It
why
is.
I love women and why we need to keep our stories alive and
Yeah.
present and talking.
Absolutely.
We can never shut up, which is great.
No.
I have a hard time shutting up anyway. So it's good.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. Ah, thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you
No,
for,
thank you.
yeah,
Thank
thank you for
you.
being here with me. Thank you for showing up in my life. Thank you for the work you're doing. It's, I think it's so nice to know there's another sister in the world that is out there doing something, in alignment, because then there's two of us creating more to create more to
Yeah.
create more. And I know there's even more of us quietly doing that. I've spoken to them, we've chatted, we're growing, and we're doing it in such a profoundly powerful way that's going to sink and stay. And that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to wrap this up, what is something that you would really love to share, if you could, with yourself, your past, present, and future?
Oh, I think it'd be the same thing. And
Yeah.
it would be to keep trusting myself and investing in myself, because I feel that the more that I allow myself to fully be, and because I feel that, as we've said before, there's a lot of narratives out there around how everything should be, and it's
Mm-hmm.
so easy to be manipulated into believing that whatever part of your life you're looking at, um and just to trust that everything is going to be okay, and that you have more answers within you than you know. Because I spent a lot of my time looking externally for answers and validation.
Mm-hmm.
And even now, you know, the more I trust in my intuition and in my wisdom and in what I actually feel within me, the more amazing life gets. When I turn off the noise that's telling me, oh, Amy, you should be doing this, or what about this, or da 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 da. And I just think, right, let's listen within. Like, what does all of me want? What does my body want? What does my soul want? All of it. And bringing, like I said, like with communicating with my vagina, like just bringing all of me in to the decisions that I make and the relationships that I create. Yeah, because I just think we're really, really good at distracting ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and telling ourselves that we need something else, or that we're not good enough because we haven't got A, B, or C.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, I don't look like that, so I could never achieve that, or whatever it is. And
Oh my
like
God,
like I
yeah.
said, the older I get, the less fucks I give, and I'm just like, I'm gonna go and have fun, and I'm gonna enjoy my body. I'm not gonna be ashamed of her, and I'm gonna love her and treat her with respect, and just trust that everything's gonna be okay. And if it's not, like, if I'm ever, and the other piece as well, on the flip side of that, is that it's okay to not feel like everything's okay,
Mm-hmm.
and to not get lost in that, and feel like it, because that can be really consuming when things aren't going great, or if you are navigating something that's a bit uncomfortable, because life isn't all, you know, lollipops, sunshine, and roses. Like, there's all the shit around that as well. So I think that that's okay
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Yeah. So definitely just trust what's within, and know that I'm magical and amazing, whatever I decide to do.
You
Yeah.
are. You are bloody magical. Totally
Thank you.
magical. Yeah. Thank you so much. So I'm going to wrap it up because I know the journey for everyone is, limited and expansive and all of that goodness. And I want to honor your time because you've blessed me with it. So if anyone wants to get a hold of Amy and work with Amy and her profoundness, it's vaginatruthbombs.com. I'll be,
No, it's
nope.
not plural.
Oh,
Vagina truth
oh,
bomb.
bomb. Thank
Yeah.
you. See, okay. I will type it properly in the thingy below so you can push the
Yeah.
little
I
linky
don't know where
and
you'll
go.
end up online if you put that in. That's what I'm worried about.
That would be interesting. Now it's like, where do we go? So don't go there. We want to talk to Amy. Don't listen. I will put the proper one in down below so you can push a link or do. I think by now everybody knows what the fuck to do with this shit.
Yeah.
So like, share, blah blah blah, or don't. That's
Yeah.
totally great too. This is my gift to the world. however it gets to where it needs to go is amazing. And if it goes nowhere, then it's my gift to me and us for this conversation.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So thank
Yeah.
you so much. I'm gonna send
Thank
us
you for
on our
having
way.
me.
Oh yeah.